Make way for ducklings. Make way for ducklings. Mr. and Mrs. Mallard were looking for a place to live, but every time Mr. Mallard saw what looked like a nice place, Mrs. Mallard said it will be no good. There were sure to be foxes in the woods or turtles in the water, and she was not going to raise a family where there might be foxes or turtles. So they flew on and on. When they get to Boston, they felt too tired to fly any further. There was a nice pond in a public garden. How am I going to read it if you take the book? With a little island on it. The very place to spend the night. Quacker Mr. Mallard. Oh, quacked Mr. Mallard. So down they flapped. This book is pretty good at organizing. Next morning they fished for their breakfast in the mud at the bottom of the pond, but they didn't find much. Just as they were getting ready to start on their way, a strange, enormous bird came by. It was pushing a boat full of people, and there's a man sitting on its back. "Good morning," quacked Mr. Mallard, being polite. The big bird was too proud to answer, but the people on the boat threw peanuts into the water. So the Mallards followed them all around the pond to get another breakfast before better than better than the first. "I like this place," said Mrs. Mallard, and they climbed out of the back of the bank and waddled along. "Why don't we build a nest and raise our ducklings right in this pond? There are no foxes and no turtles, and the people feed us peanuts. What could be better?" "Good," said Mr. Mallard, delighted that at last Mrs. Mallard had found a place that suited her. But "Look out," squawked Mrs. Mallard. All of a ditcher, you'll get run over." And when she got her breath and added, "This is no place for babies. With all these horrid things rushing about, we'll have to look somewhere else." So with all the people around, the people on the bikes, that was not a place that they wanted to stay, right? So they flew over Beacon Hill and around the State House. But there was no place there. They looked for Louisburg Square, but there was no water to swim in. Then they flew over the Charles River. "This is better," quacked Mr. Mallard. "That island looks like a nice quiet place, and is only a little way from the public garden." "Yes," said Mrs. Mallard, remembering the peanuts that Looks like that's just the right place to hatch ducklings. Oh my. Boop. So they chose a cozy spot amongst the bushes near the water and settled down to build their nest. And only just in time, but now they were beginning to molt. All their old wing feathers started to drop out, and they would not be able to fly again until the new ones grew in. But of course they could swim, and one day they swam over to the park on the river bank, and there they met a policeman called Michael. Michael fed them peanuts, and after that the mallards called on Michael every day. They made a friend with a guy. After Mrs. Mallard had laid her 8 eggs in the nest, she couldn't go to visit Michael anymore because she had to sit on the eggs to keep them warm. She moved off the nest only to get a drink of water or to have her lunch or to count the eggs and make sure that they were all there. See, the mama's watching the nest. One day the ducklings hatched out. First came Jack, then Cack, then Lack, then Mack, then Knack, then Quack, then Pack, then Oak. Mr. and Mrs. Mallard were bustling with pride. It was a great responsibility taking care of so many ducklings, so it kept them very busy. One day, Mr. Mallard decided he'd like to take a trip to see what the rest of the river was like further on. So off he set. "I'll meet you in a week in the public garden," he quacked over his shoulder. "Take good care of the ducklings." "Don't you worry," said Mrs. Mallard. "I know all about bringing up children," and she did. She taught them how to swim and dive. She taught them to walk in a line, to come with when they were called, and to keep a safe distance from bikes and scooters and other things with wheels. When at last she felt perfectly satisfied with them, she said one morning, "Come along, children, follow me." Before you could wink an eyelash, Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Ook, Pack, and Quick fell into line, just as they had been taught. Mrs. Mallard led the way into the water, and they swam behind her to the opposite bank. Then they waddled ashore and waddled along till they came to the highway. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? You want to go down? Okay. Mrs. Mallard stepped out to cross the road. Honk, honk went the horns of the speeding cars. Quack went Mrs. Mallard as she tumbled back again. Quack, quack, quack went Jack, Cack, Lack, Mack, Knack, Ook, Pack, and Quick. Just as loud as their little quackers could quack, the cars kept speeding by and honking, and Mrs. Mallard and the duckling kept right on quack, quack, quacking. They made so much noise that Michael came running, waving his arms and whistling his whistle. Went the whistle. He planted himself in the center of the road, raised one arm up to stop the traffic, and then beckoned with the other, the way policemen do for Mrs. Mallard to cross over. See the policeman? See Michael? He's letting the ducklings cross. There's 9 of them. Well, with Mrs. Mallard, there's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. As soon as Mrs. Mallard and the ducklings were safe on the other side and on their way down Mount Vernon Street, Michael rushed back to the police booth. "Hello," called Clancy at headquarters and said, "There's a family of ducks walking down the street." Clancy said, "Family of what?" "Ducks," yelled Michael. "Send a police car quick." Yeah. Meanwhile, Mrs. Mallard had reached the corner bookshop and turned into Charles Street with Jack, Pack, Whack, Mac, Knack, Oak, Pack, and Quick, all marching in line behind her. Yeah. Everyone stared. An old lady from Beacon Hill said, "Isn't it amazing?" And the man who swept the streets said, "Well, now, ain't that nice?" And when Mrs. Mallard heard them, she was so proud. She tipped her nose in the air and walked along with an extra swing in her waddle. When they came to the corner of Beacon Street, there was a police car with 4 policemen that Clancy had sent from headquarters. Do you want to come up and eat? Look at that eye going. The policemen held back the traffic so Mrs. Mallard and the ducklings could march across the street. Yeah, you don't believe it either? Right on into the police garden. Oh, the public garden. Look at them go into the public garden. Yeah. Oh, yeah? My baby. Inside the gate, they all turned round to say thank you to the policeman, and the policeman smiled and waved goodbye. When they reached the pond and swam across the little island, there was Mr. Mallard waiting for them, just as he had promised. See, the mamas do all the work, and then the papas are just like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm here." So it works like that in all the animal kingdoms, just the way that it is. The ducklings liked the new island so much that they decided to live there all day long. They flew, they swam in the boats, and they ate peanuts. And when night fell, they swam to their little island to go to sleep. The end. Yay! That was the first time we read that book. Want to read the Going to Bed book? Because we're going to bed. Want to read this one? Please on my lap. Okay, hold you. Ready? Okay, ready. Oh. Look, the Going to Bed book. The sun has set not long ago. Now everyone goes below to take a bath in one big tub with soap all over. Scrub, scrub, scrub. They hang their towels on the wall and find pajamas, big and small. With some on top and some beneath, they brush and brush and brush their teeth. And when the moon is on the rise, they all go up to exercise. And down once more, but not so fast. They are on their way to bed at last. The day is done, they say goodnight, and somebody turns off the lights. The moon is high, the sea is deep. They rock and rock and rock to sleep. Alright, we finished with story time. Is it time for bed? You go pee-pee in your diaper? No. Alright, are we ready for bed? We did our storybooks. Do you want to go pick out one more storybook? Oh, ready. Yeah. Alright. That's it for our update. We're just gonna go to bed now. Yay! We had to do story time in the living room because James is sleeping in the bedroom. Like I keep on saying, if he's somewhere, we have to be somewhere else. Like when he's out here watching his TV shows and playing his video games, we have to be in the bedroom to do like Your Baby Can Read and stuff. And when he's in the bedroom asleep, obviously we have to be in the living room to do story time. So, and you know, nighttime stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, it's like it's our house, but really it's he likes things a certain way. Like I can't wait till we have more space, because I'd love him to have his own room where the door shuts, because he's so loud when he's awake, and he wakes up my daughter and she cries and she screams, and it's really just no fun. So like, and like I'm like, oh, she's asleep or something, and he's like, I don't care, I want to do this. So it's just, it doesn't matter to him. So that's why we had, like, usually just I leave him to his own devices and his own space because, well, he works all week. So, I mean, he needs decompression time. All right, but anyway, this is my update. We just did story time, and now, like I said, it's 12 something. It's 12:12 already. All right, so yeah, we're going to bed.